Hello, everyone, and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Tips and Tricks Tuesday, and I have been asked by a few different people to go through a little bit of a beginner's tutorial on colored pencils and how to use them. There's several things that you need to do that I found that I needed to do every time I picked up a coloring book. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is I have three different, very different coloring books here. This one here I got at the Dollar General. This one here is a very basic brand of coloring book by Coloring Book Cafe. And this one is a Grayscale coloring book. All really nice coloring books. Let's start with the basic brand from the Dollar General. And let's be honest, uh, when you're just starting out and you feel that you just want to, try it and see if you can do it, we go down to the dollar store and we pick out a coloring book that we like, and we pick out a set of pencils, whether it be Crayola or an off brand, and we come home and we add color to paper. That's what we do to start with, and that's perfectly fine. This coloring book is a larger coloring book. It's quite a bit squarer, wider than other coloring books that you get on Amazon. This one is done by Bendon, and it's a very basic Shutterstock type of pictures. This one, of course, is Christmas type of pictures, so it has lots of snow and Christmassy type of things. When I found it, it was around Christmas time, and it was really cute. So that's why I bought it. Now, one of the things that you have to feel for is the paper. Check the paper. Is it a cardstock? This is a very lightweight cardstock. This is not a printer paper. So this has got a good thickness to the paper. Then feel the smoothness of the paper. Is it really smooth? If it feels like it is really smooth, it may not be the best one to start out with colored pencils on. Because when you're using a smooth paper, there's not a lot of tooth to it. And tooth, and you've probably heard this from umpteen dozen YouTubers on whether or not the tooth of the paper is good. What we mean by tooth is how much of the paper stands up a little bit. So when you color on it with a colored pencil, it holds on to that color. The more tooth that is there, the deeper or the more layers that you can get if you layer things gently. If you have a heavy hand and are only going to put down one color, the tooth of the paper can be very low. If you're going to put, and you're really light-handed, and you're going to put, 4 different colors in 10 different layers on your paper, you're going to want something that has some tooth. I know it's an odd little term, but that's the term we use for paper that's a little bit textured and has a good stand-up. So, for example, this one has really smooth pages on one side. On the other side, it's a little bit rougher. So they may have created this book in thoughts of new colorists with pencils or people that are going to use markers. So that's the first thing that you need to look at. And this book here has a low tooth. This book here is printed on paper that is from Amazon, and it's called Amazon, what did they name that paper? It usually says what it's printed on. And this one doesn't, of course. But Amazon has a type of paper that they print their books on. And when it is something that is printed the day you buy it, it is printed directly from Amazon. And sometimes that paper, depending upon the choice of the publisher or the company that has made the book, or the artist that has made the book, depending upon those people, is dependent upon what quality of paper you get. This one has a really good toothy paper. I can feel it's smooth, but I can still feel the ridges in the paper. And as you go along, you'll be able to notice this a lot more as you continue to buy books and paper to print off your printer. If you're going to print your paper, what I suggest that you use is a cardstock. This is a 67-pound cardstock. It's not too heavy, it's not too light, and it feels really smooth, but it does have a good amount of tooth to it. However, like my mom, for example, she uses Prismas, and she uses layer after layer after layer of Prismas. And this paper will take 3 or 4 different layers, but then the tooth is gone. So for her, the cardstock that I use doesn't work for her. I do have a 110-pound cardstock that is a little bit thicker than that, but it's a lot toothier, and that works well for her. This paper does work quite well for colored pencils, and it does have a good amount of tooth to it. And it's, a cute book, and that's why I bought it. Now, the last one I'm going to show you, this is a Grayscale coloring book. And the reason why I chose this coloring book, it's a Jane Madej coloring book. And in some of her coloring books, and not all of them, but some of them, she has a fantastic little tutorial on how to color that kind of coloring. So in this one, this is the first one I ever bought that was Grayscale. And I absolutely love this book. The tooth in this book is fantastic. It's nice and smooth, but it's still got enough layering ability to color a well-colored picture. Now, I colored one of these. Can you tell which one I colored? No. And it goes through and shows you the grayscale, the colored pencils, pastel pencils, and brush markers, the different things that you can use while coloring. The one I colored, of course, is this one, but we're not going to tell you that. And of course, she goes into combining mediums, as well as how to color fur and make eyes and stuff like that. She also goes through layering and depth and light to dark, practice pads, how to color fur, and all sorts of things in the start of her book. So I colored all of these, and I used colored pencils to do so. I have used a bit of pan pastel on this one and this one for the grass, but all of them are done with colored pencils on a grayscale picture. A grayscale is a picture that is already shaded for you. has probably been turned black and white from a colored picture or a color photograph. These are actually hand-drawn pictures that have been painted and colored and then turned black and white. Another thing I really like about this book is it's perforated. So you can take the picture out and color it directly outside of the book. So you don't have to turn the book or anything else, you can turn your page. Another thing I really enjoy about this book, and I know I'm spending a lot of time on this book because I just absolutely love this book, is that it does have every single picture in the book in the colors that the artist colored them in, which is a great inspiration gallery. It does show you what little things that you may see but not quite sure what they are, and stuff like that. Because sometimes with grayscale, when you turn it black and white, it loses a little bit of the detail, so that you're not quite sure what something may be. And taking a look at the colored picture helps you determine where one thing ends and another thing begins. Sometimes, like her grayscale is really nice because it's not really dark, but sometimes you get a grayscale that's really, really dark and you can't tell where one thing stops and one thing starts. And it's those instances where those galleries are very, very handy. You do not have to color this the exact same way that the artist colored it. However, if you're having trouble seeing what something is, I'm trying to find a picture here that I can show you that might give you some issues trying to determine what something is. And so far, I'm not finding any, because the grayscale in this book is very nice. But there are some grayscales that are very, very dark, and you can't determine from 1 minute to the next what something is. And I know I have one on my shelf, so I'm going to grab that. I just got to remember where it is. Let's see. I think it's this one. No. Is it one of these? Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Of course, I can't find it now. I just had it in my hand and I put it back thinking, nope, that's too dark of a grayscale, but didn't even think about showing you the darker grayscale and how that looks. So I do apologize. I should have thought of that, and I did not. So I put the book back, and now I can't find it. And I have lots and lots of books, so it gets to be a little bit cumbersome when you're trying to find something. Okay, so this one here, no, that's a fairly light grayscale too. Maybe it's, no. I just had it. Oh, I hate that. It's going to drive me crazy until I find it now. I just had it in my hot little hands a few minutes ago, and I stuck it back. Now I can't find it. Darn it. But anyway, I'm not going to waste all your time trying to figure out what I did with this book. Oh, there it is. Huh. And that's the wrong one, of course. Yeah, no, those are wrong ones. So I'll show you a different one. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore this artist's work. Her grayscale, let's see if this one's a grayscale or if it's line art. That one is line art, I do believe. But this one, and I have 90% of her books is line art. And I've already dismantled some of them, so most of the ones I've dismantled are the Grayscale ones. So trying to find one that's Grayscale that I haven't taken apart could be, there we go, this one will do. So this is Selena Finish, her Gothic Grayscale book. And her Grayscale is absolutely gorgeous, don't get me wrong. Absolutely love her work. However, it's a lot darker because she uses really dark colors when she colors, especially things like these books, the content of this book. So when you get to a picture, for example, this one, where you're not quite sure how something should look, you can go to Selena's page and take a look at the colored picture. This one's a really good one because when you look at the picture, this whole area here is quite difficult to see where things are. Like this, for example, it takes a lot or really good eyes to actually see that that's her hair going all the way down and where it begins and where it ends. You know, so when you're coloring this type of picture, it's a lot easier to look at what the artist was thinking or what they visualized when they colored it than to look at it in the black and white and try to discern what things are. This one isn't so bad. This book isn't so bad. There are some of hers that are have very dark images because the picture, it requires a darkness to it. And when the picture requires a darkness to it, it takes dark colors. And dark colors, when transferred to a grayscale, can be, like this picture here, is a very dark picture. But that's because of the type of grayscale that it is. So I do apologize, just one moment. Sorry about that. My phone was going crazy on my desk and I had to shut it up. But, you know, as you can see with some of her works, she uses really dark colors in them. And when you use really dark colors in something and then turn it into a grayscale, it can be more difficult to see what those works are and where things are supposed to be. A lot of her stuff isn't so bad, but when you're first coming out with it and first going into grayscale, it's really intimidating. So just remember that it's not cheating to go to the website of the artist and take a look. Selena has all of her works in color on her website in a gallery. So if you're having trouble with something, look at what the artist visualized. Go to their website, go to their Facebook page, and see how other people are coloring it and take inspiration from that. That is my thoughts on books. Selena's paper is really nice. It's very toothy though. Very, very toothy. So Selena's books would be something that you would definitely build up and that sort of thing before you burnished it, because it does take a little bit of color to fill in that tooth. So this is definitely a book that would be one that you would do a gradual color on. All right, so that's it for books. Basically, when you're looking for a book, if you don't already have books and you're looking for a book, feel the paper. If it feels really smooth, that's perfectly fine. Just know that you're going to have to use a very highly pigmented colored pencil on it to get the results that you want. Also, you're going to have to use 1 or 2 coats instead of 5 or 6. The next thing we're going to talk about is your color wheels, choosing your colors. Now, I know usually you don't worry too much about choosing colors until you've got a picture picked out and your pencils picked out and whatnot. I'm going to talk about this because it's something that a lot of people don't know about and don't use because they don't know how to use it. It took me a long time to figure out how to use this product. And a color wheel has been around for eons. It just took me a little while to understand the concept of it. Now, on the back side here, of course, you have your colors. And I thought, in my infinite wisdom, that when it was pointing at violet, the only color that would go with violet was yellow. And I didn't like that color combination. However, all of these different colors go with your color. However, the complementary color to violet is yellow. The split complementary, so different colors that you can put throughout the page, are the greens, the yellow oranges, the oranges, little bits of red, different things like that. And when you're doing shadows and stuff like that, and you're using a violet, it of course shows you the different levels of violet. It shows you shade. It shows you, different things in each of the squares. I just thought it was just different colors of green. And then I started, looking at it more and understanding more what tint meant and understanding more what tone meant and what shade meant. And the further along you go, the more you understand the concept of these colors. Start looking at things in nature, in their natural habitat, and it will give you a lot of information on shade and tone and tint and that sort of thing. Now, there are a billion of these. This part here, the part on the back, I'm going to show you in the big one because it's just easier, shows you what color is going to come when you add different colors to it. For example, if you only have 12 or 24 colors, you can add red to violet and end up with a red violet, a reddish purple color. If you take that color and add yellow to it, you're going to get a brown, an orangey brown. If you add red to blue, as everybody knows, you're going to get purple or a bluey violet color, close to violet. Same with if you add white to red orange, you're going to get a creamy orange color. Just like if you add white to anything, you're going to get a creamier color or a toned down color to the color that you're using. If you add black to orange, you get a darker brown, and so forth. And as you turn this dial, it will go from each of the colors in the color family, adding those colors to it. which is really kind of cool. And it tells you your primary colors, your secondary colors, your tertiary colors. These are 6 colors, each made by mixing one primary color to the adjacent secondary color. Cool. So different things on the color wheel that you will learn just by reading it and paying attention to where it lands and stuff like that. I suggest that everybody get one. I absolutely love them. They help me out a lot, especially when I'm stuck on a color and I'm not seeing the complementary colors, or I've got too much of one color on a page and I want something to pop a little more, but I don't want to put, a huge amount of different colors on the page. It works really, really well. So that is one thing that I would suggest every colorist, especially a new colorist, as you go along, you start learning it to a point where you know it and you don't need it anymore. But if you don't already know it, get one of these, keep it on your desk. If you get stuck, use it. I use mine all the time. I really, really like my color wheel. Now for the fun stuff. Colored pencils. And this is where it gets tricky because there are a ton of different colored pencils out there. There are wax-based colored pencils. There's oil-based colored pencils. There's cheap colored pencils. There's expensive colored pencils. There's mid-range colored pencils. There's so many different colored pencils out there. And if you've been watching my Collection Mania Monday, you know that I have a problem when it comes to colored pencils because I really like a good pencil. And I have found with different types of paper, you need a different type of pencil. So when I'm coloring in something such as Hello Winter, which is a very, very smooth paper, let's find something that has just a couple of little bits in it. There we go. This one here isn't too bad, and it's already out, so let's use it. So this one here is just little triangles. So this one is a really good one if you have a few different sets of colored pencils. This one is a really good one to determine what colored pencils would work best on it. So, of course, you got to sharpen your pencil to your liking. I personally like my pencils sharpened to a fine point, but I know some people that like them fairly blunt. If I'm shading a really large area, I like my pencil a little bit blunter. But if I'm doing the start of coloring, I prefer it to have a good point. So when I'm trying to decide what colored pencil to use, I feel the paper. Now, this sheet is really good to show what's best for this paper just by going over a couple of the different triangles here with different pencils. And I'm using a light pressure. I'm not using a heavy pressure. And I'm only going to put as many layers as this little triangle will take. So I'm on my second layer. And you will know when you get to a point where it's not taking any more color just by the feel of it and the fact that sometimes, especially if you use a sharp pencil, when it gets to a point where it's not going to take any more layers and it will start peeling the layers off. So you will see it get darker and darker as you color. And if you are heavy-handed, this is going to take a lot less time. And I used to be quite heavy-handed, and it didn't take any time at all to fill the tooth of this paper. And it frustrated me a lot when I first started coloring. And that's why most of that book is not colored, because it only took 1 or 2 colors per square because of being heavy-handed. So that's as much color as that's going to take. And it's fairly dark. It could be darker. But as you can see, if I rub my finger across it, some of that some of that color has come up. And when I go like this, you can see the color start to move off. I'm going to put you over into here so you can see it a little bit better. When I start going back over it again, you can see that some of that color is just peeling up a bit and giving you little lines. And that's just because the tooth of the paper isn't accepting any more wax. You're getting a wax buildup, and the paper isn't accepting any more color. So that took about 6 or 7 shades over top of it with the Deli, or Starjoy, I should say, colored pencils. I can't remember what area I took this blue out of. There it is. So this is the Starjoy colored pencils. Took 6 or 7 little layers there. Now I'm going to use another colored pencil that I know has a really good pigmentation. And this is the Sharpier Farben colored pencil. I can never say it right, and I keep trying. So let's try this one. This one is an oil-based color pencil as well. And of course it's a different color, so. But as I go along, you can see while I'm going through, you can see the tooth of the paper showing through. And that's that white spot that you get on your paper. And you think it's an area that you've missed, but it's not. It's an area that is sticking up above the color that you've already put down. Now you can cover that by going over it again. And you just keep on going over it until that tooth is covered up. Like I said, I am being very light-handed, and I will show you a medium hand on the next one and so forth. And we'll look at how many layers it'll take with a medium hand. So if you're using a light hand, you can get quite a few layers on this paper. But when I first started out, I did not have a light hand at all. And I was using inexpensive wax-based pencils. Now these are oil-based that I'm using, and I think I'm almost to a point where it's not going to accept too much more color, because the color of the object is no longer changing. It's not getting any darker, and pretty soon I'm going to start peeling up what color I've already put down. And you can watch as you're coloring, you can see that getting shinier and shinier. And the shinier it gets, it means the less tooth is there. So it means that you're squishing down that paper underneath the color, and that it's not going to take any more. I can see the color starting to peel up. So that's all that's going to take. So as you can see, there's little smudges of color there. And when you feel it, you can feel the difference between where you've colored and where you haven't. And that took 6 or 7. It took about 8. Let's say 8. Now we're going to do this with a medium hand. And when you're shading, it's better to hold your pencil up towards the top of your pencil. When you're using a medium hand, you can hold it closer to the center of your pencil and put a little bit more pressure on your pencil. You don't have to, mash it into the paper, just a little more pressure. And this is what we call a medium hand. It's not a shading, it's not a heavy hand, it's just a medium hand where it's getting a lot of color down quite quickly onto the page. Now, you will also notice that certain colors have the ability to color more than other colors or have a brighter color to them. So you don't need as many layers, so you can add more to it. And that's what it is you will find that there are colors that have the ability to fill that area better because of the pigmentation of the pencil. And that's all I'm going to get of that. And that took 4 with a heavy hand, or a medium hand, I mean. Now I'm going to do this one here with a heavy hand. And when you're doing a heavy hand, you hold the pencil right close to the tip and you put the pressure on the tip. Now you have to be careful doing this, especially with inexpensive pencils. You will find that your pencils will break and will break often, which is frustrating. And really soft pencils like Prismas will mash. I will show you that here in a couple of minutes. So when you use a heavy hand, you can fill that color really quick with one layer, but you've used a heavy hand. So what you've done is you have made it so that there is absolutely no ability whatsoever of adding another color to that. That is going to be green and only green because you've pushed all the tooth of the paper down and mashed the pencil. Now, we're also going to do it with these ones. So that was 1. So this is, I'm also going to go right down towards the tip and I'm going to put the pressure on it. Now this is a lighter color. So it doesn't take as much pressure. And I'm getting more layers. This one here seems to be a bit of a harder pencil than the Sharpier Faben, which is the Starjoy. And another thing that you need to pay attention to is how hard the pencil is, how hard the core is. So if you have a really hard core pencil and you press down hard like this on it, it's going to dig into your paper and possibly give you a little bit more ability to add color because you're giving yourself a little bit more tooth. If it's a really soft pencil, it will fill that tooth really fast. And as you can see, I got 2 layers on this one, which is about the same as that. And there's bits of colored pencil everywhere. But if I tried to add a color to this, so I've got another Starjoy here, and I'm going to add a bit of color to this. Because this pencil is sharp, I'm able to add a bit more color to it. However, if I hadn't mashed down that tooth on those white areas, I would be able to add more color than I am able to add here. So for example, let's do this one here. I'm going to put this color down, and I'm just going to go a little bit on each side and give it a little bit of a, and I'm just doing this very lightly. I can hold my pencil way down here and just do it very lightly. Some people cannot. If you are one that can do this, by all means do this. I find it more comfortable to hold my pencil down here. It took me a long time to learn how to lift up on the pressure. But you can definitely color from down here on the very tip of your pencil and just ease up on the pressure. So as you can see, that's a very, very light layer. So if I take this pencil again that I just used here, and I go over this really light layer with another layer and use the medium pressure, it'll blend that light layer into this layer. However, if I had done that other layer heavier and used a heavy hand with that, you wouldn't be able to blend it. You would end up with a harsher line. And what I mean by a harsher line is, okay, so for example, I'm just going to blend this together. So I've been able to put two different colors down and blend those two different colors together, both with a little bit of dark, a little bit of light, and a little bit of dark again. Now on the other side here, I'm going to use a heavy hand, and I'm going to just color this area here with a really heavy hand because I want that to be that color. Now when I go over it with the pink, and I'm using a lighter hand or a medium hand. Now I hold my pencils back a little bit more while I'm on screen because I'm trying to show you what I'm doing. And with my hand way down here, you guys can't see it. So I've slowly learned how to put the pressure in different spots while I'm coloring with my hand back further. It's taken me a little while, but I'm getting to it. I'm slowly getting to it. But as you can see, there's a harsh line where those two colors join that I can't blend out with just the colored pencil. I will have to actually take a blender pencil, and that will be in one of the next lessons, is using blender pencils and that sort of thing. But I would have to take a blender pencil to that and blend it out. Where on this side, I can gradually add a little bit more of the red. And bring that out a little bit. And a little bit more of the pink. And blend those two colors together making it look like a cohesive progression into that red from pink, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So if I want that center area just a little bit darker, I can definitely go in and add a bit of a medium hand. If I'm happy with the way this is, and I just want this area here to be a little bit darker, I can go in with a medium hand and add that color to make that a little bit darker. And then what you can do is you can take your lighter color, come in, and drag that color out. So it removes that harsh line, but doesn't do too much in the way of change the color that is there. And I made a mess because there was dust. And I used my hand. That is another one of those wonderful tools that we will go through on the next video of what you need to have on your desk. I should have done that video first, but I will do it next. So those are the different things that you have to look at when you're choosing your picture. Is A, what kind of tooth is there? B, what kind of pencils do I want to use? Do I want to use an oil-based pencil? Do I want to use a wax-based pencil, such as a, um, let's see, what I have these ones here, which are wax-based. These are Arteza. Do I want to use a wax-based pencil? Arteza pencils are really great for being able to layer. So I'm using a light hand. And I'm just shading this in. And as you can see, there's a lot of tooth there. So even on this very smooth paper, I'm going to be able to get quite a few colors on this square, or quite a few layers of color on this square. So say I want half of this to be a little bit of an orangey pink, salmon pink. And half of it to be that other pink. I can add that salmony color to it and go back over it with this other pink to make it a little bit darker, and just bring those colors into each other in the center. The more color you add, the more tooth is going to be used up and the less layers that you can put down. So if you're doing this with a medium hand to a heavy hand, you're going to get a hard line like this where the colors are separated. If you're going to use a medium hand or a light hand, you're going to get the ability to bring those two colors together without having that harsh line, so where they progress together nicely. Now, just trying to bring that up to the color that I want it to be. And bring that other side into it. So if you bring that color out just a little bit in a lighter hand into the other color, and then go over that other color with a lighter hand, it will combine those two colors, making that transition more natural, more soft, or softer, more soft. English failed me. Yeah, so you can make that transition softer. Now, if you're done with your transition and you're not happy with the amount of color that's down here, away from your transition, you can definitely put a bit of a medium hand on there and fill in the rest of your tooth, which will fill in that color. Same with this side. Just make sure that you're gentle on your transition. Once you move away from your transition, you can put a better application of color down, a heavier application of color down. However, it's only going to take on this paper 4 or 5 layers before it says it's done. And that is a wax-based pencil. And as you could probably see as I was coloring, there was a lot of dust or a lot of excess color that came off. And that's because as I was filling in all of these little areas, it couldn't take any more. So the more I added, the more it peeled up. So you have to be careful with that, especially with using, say, a heavy hand. So we're going to do this one here with a heavy hand. We'll do the same as we did on the greens on this one here. And we're going to just press quite hard and fill that in. As you can see with a wax-based pencil, a soft pencil, you're going to use up a lot of your pencil doing this. You are going to get a really vibrant color, but you've used up all of the tooth of the paper and quite a bit of your pencil because it's peeled off. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of peel off there, and the tip of my pencil is half of what it was. So let's brush this peel off and try to put another color on there. As you can see, I can't add this color to it. It just doesn't go down. It doesn't change color whatsoever because there's no tooth for this color to hold on to. So that's the first thing, is learning what kind of colors work best for the paper you're using, what kind of pencils you want to use, whether it be wax-based, whether it be oil-based. Personally, I find that the oil-based pencils work a lot better. They hold a point a lot better. Don't get me wrong, I love my Artezas and Prismas and all of those things. I just find with a very smooth paper like this, I'm able to get a better coloring with a oil-based pencil. And that is the first lesson, is choosing your paper. Feel your paper. Make sure that you know the texture of it. Give it a rubbing. If it feels really, really, really smooth, both on the back and the front, that would be something that I would use an oil-based pencil for, because you can get it to a very, 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 very fine tip. Let's see if I have one here sharpened that's nice and fine. So what I mean by a fine tip is one that'll cut into the page a little bit. So something like this, where it's really, really, really sharp, really sharp. So when you poke it, you feel like you've poked something hard. And what happens when you do that is it cuts into or gets into all of those little crevices a lot easier. It does take a little bit more time to color with a fine point than it does to, say, color with a dull point. Like this one here is quite dull. I can get a larger area covered with that being dull like that than if I used a tight point. And the reason why this one is so dull is because I have colored with it and put a lot of pressure because I wanted it to be one color. And I wasn't too worried about whether or not I was going to be adding another color to it, because I wasn't. And you can make that judgment call as you're going along. The best suggestion I can give anybody is feel your page, feel your paper. If it feels really smooth like this one, use a harder pencil. The oil-based pencils are normally quite a bit harder than a wax-based pencil. If you're using a coloring book with like this that has a good feel to it, if it feels quite toothy, use a soft wax-based pencil and build your layers up so that you can be in a little bit more control of what colors you're putting down. If you're doing a grayscale, we'll get into that later. Grayscale is a whole new animal, and I'm just going to start with the basics right now. So that is the first lesson, is choose your paper. Make sure that your paper choice or the coloring book choice that you have is a good match to the pencil choice that you have made. So if you're using Prismacolor pencils, make sure that your paper has quite a bit of tooth, because those soft wax pencils are something that you might want to layer a little bit of so that you can get a buildup of color. If you're using a harder oil-based pencil, a smoother paper does work all right. Most really smooth papers are reserved for coloring with markers. If you're going to color a smooth page with a colored pencil, you may find that you're limited to 2 or 3 different colors in one area with very, very thin layers. So be careful with that. No matter which pencil you choose, both the wax and the oil will mash down that tooth and what little tooth there is quite quickly. So that's lesson number 1, is the choice is yours, absolutely. I don't know what you have in your arsenal already, or if you have to buy everything brand new. If you have to buy everything brand new, my main suggestion to you would be to look at the type of pencil it is. If you're going with Crayola and a Crayola product, and they have beautiful pencils, there is nothing wrong with a Crayola product or an Amazon Basic product. Absolutely nothing wrong. I have the Amazon Basics in my bag right now with my Artezas, and I use them. I have used them quite a bit. So there is nothing wrong with getting a $5 set of pencils to give this a try. When you do feel your paper, make sure that there's a little bit of tooth to it, and layer. Don't go heavy-handed at it. If you do go heavy-handed at it, you're only going to get 1 or 2 colors, maybe 2, depending upon how heavy-handed you are. But you may only get a couple of colors in one area, and you may have difficulty blending those colors together. Or when you do blend them together, you may find that you have a very hard line in between the colors where they haven't come together smoothly or transitionally. That is something that we will work on another day. We have reached an hour, so I don't want to go too much over that. This little brush is another thing that you would want on your desk, and we will go through on next Tuesday on what you need to have on your desk and that sort of thing, and then we will choose a picture and start coloring. All right, guys, I want to say, of course, thank you so much for joining me. Of course, like, comment, and subscribe. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. It does help me out in understanding what you want in videos and what you are enjoying in my videos. Nobody else can see whether it has likes or not. The only one that sees that is me. So hit the like button. It helps me out in understanding what you guys want to see. Of course, leave me a comment if you have a question or if you have anything in specific that you want to learn during this colored pencil tutorial 101 coloring journey. I will be doing these every Tuesday for a while until I have nothing further to show you that I already know. I am not perfect. I do not know everything. There are things that you may know that I don't know that I'm missing. Leave them in the comments. I do enjoy learning and I try to learn as much as I can. I am never ever going to tell you that I'm perfect, and I'm never going to tell you that what you're doing is wrong, because it's not. You do what you want to do and how you want to do it. Whatever is best for you is perfect. What I'm showing you is the things that I've learned about myself and how I color along the way. You can always join us over on Facebook. We do have a Facebook page. The only thing that we do ask when you join us over on Facebook is that you fill out the application form. There's like 3 or 4 little questions that we ask that you answer, and that is to help us protect our members from scams and spammers and things like that that try to get into Facebook groups and steal people's information or put in advertisements that are spam or scams. And of course, one of the last things I do have to tell you all about, because I'm legally obligated to, uh, um, any of the links listed below are my Amazon affiliate links. A couple of pennies from every purchase that you make by clicking on a link does go to me and does go towards the funding of the channel. So please make sure you hit the links. It does help me out with purchasing things for giveaways and that sort of thing, and shipping and handling and all that fun stuff. Last but not least whatsoever at all is always, always remember, no matter what you're doing, is to remember to relax, color, and stay safe. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you all tomorrow for Work in Progress Wednesday. All right, guys, bye-bye for now.